Hey there everyone, this is Linnea, and today I'm taking part in a very special hop to celebrate and encourage my friend Beth from Sassy and Crafty. Unfortunately, due to unforeseen circumstances, Beth had to close her crafty shop. So a bunch of us came together and decided to make a card to encourage her and just to remind her how much we love her. So I'm going to be making this card in honor of her and Sassy and Crafty today. I'm going to be doing some ink blending here with the Comic Book Circles stencil set, and while I do, I just wanted to give a nice little message to Beth. We've been friends now for a couple of years, and I met her, I kind of stalked her actually a long time ago, and we became friends, and I'm happy to say that we're still friends. And Beth, no matter what happens in your life, I hope you know that I will always support you and I will always be there for you. And I have been really happy to work with you and alongside of you for all of these years. I know life hands all of us some crazy ups and downs sometimes, but through it all, I hope you know that myself, along with a bunch of other people, are here to support you and to love you no matter what you do. I also want to say a special thank you to all of Beth's friends and to everybody who supported her and Sassy and Crafty. And so, as part of this hop and as part of a thank you to all of you for hopping along with us and giving Beth all the love in the world, you want to leave a comment on each of the stops in this hop. So, starting with my video, leave a little comment and then hop along to all the other stops in the video hop, leaving comments. We are giving away 3 gift cards to a few different crafty shops, just as a thank you for being here and helping us to support Beth. I've been ink blending away here, so let's go ahead and jump into the card. Like I mentioned before, I am using the Comic Book Circles layering stencil set. This one is one from Sassy and Crafty, and I'm just going ahead and blending with some Distress Oxide inks, and I'm using a bit of purple tape to mask off those circles as I go. Now, I didn't take any care to heat set my inks, so that's why you see my stencil kind of shifting around. Sticky things like tape don't like to stick to wet areas like wet ink. So if you experience any problems with your stencil shifting, just go ahead and heat set that really quickly. And with each of those circles, I'm choosing colors that are going to blend well together and overlap and make a nice third color in the middle. You'll notice that I am wiping off my tape and my stencil before I move on to the next one. Now I'm going to do something that might panic some of you. I'm going to cut apart this layering stencil. So this is the second piece of that Comic Book Circle stencil set. This is what's going to allow me to add the detail layering. Now if I was just going to add some ink on top, I probably wouldn't need to do this, but I wanted to use Glitz Glitter Gel, and I'm an impatient crafter. I like to complete cards in one sitting, so I didn't want to put the Glitz Glitter Gel on one circle, wait a half an hour for it to dry, and then do the second circle, wait another half hour for it to dry, and then do the third circle, So I decided to cut apart my stencil. Ever since I started crafting, I have cut apart my stencils, I have cut apart my stamps, and I have never regretted it. You can always use the things as they were intended to be used, but honestly, I'm probably never going to use the second piece of the Comic Book Circles stencil set all together. So I figured why not cut it apart, and that way I can save some time. So I'm using some black Glitz Glitter Gel, and I'm just going to layer this pretty design over each of those ink blended circles. I'm using more masking tape and masking off the edges of the stencil so that I don't get the black Glitz Glitter Gel where I don't want it to go. Now here's where things are going to get a bit iffy. Even though I've cut apart my stencil, I still have a bit of a problem, and that is that I need to add another piece of tape to cover up the edge of the stencil, but that would mean putting tape right on top of that first circle there, the pink and blue one. So I'm just going to use my palette knife and be ever so careful not to go all the way up to the edge, and then I did that same thing with the third circle, and it turned out okay. I did end up trimming that panel down to 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches just because that bottom circle, when I stenciled it, it wasn't hanging off the bottom, and it was the only circle that was fully on my cardstock panel, and it looked a little weird, to be honest, so I trimmed that down. All right, so now I've stamped all 3 pairs of the kitties from the Love Your Look stamp set, and I'm going to color these in. So for my brown kitty, I'm using E37, E35, E33, and E31. And I'll use some R20 on the ears and for some blush on all the cats. I'm only going to show you how I colored one pair of the cats because I kept the coloring the same for all 3 pairs. So this is my brown color combination. And then I'm going to bring in my gray color combination. For that, I used C4 as my darkest color. Then I used C3, C2, and C1. So when I color, I like to color dark to light. That's just how I learned, and I find that I get the best shadows that way. So that's the way I like to color, but I always encourage you to use whatever coloring supplies you have and what you're comfortable with, and to color however you've learned and however you're most comfortable with. I just like to start with my darkest colors, add some shadows, and then blend out from there. Once I have all of these images colored, I'm going to pop them back into my MISTI. I kept those stamps on my door. I always do this when I'm coloring, especially with Copic markers, because no matter what ink I use, the Copic markers, when you color over that black ink, it's going to kind of dull that ink a little bit. So I like to come back in and restamp with a super crisp black ink and darken up those outlines. Now I'm just going to use my scissors and fussy cut out these images. They're simple images, so they're easy to cut, but I do have some tips for fussy cutting. I like to use spring action scissors, but you can use, again, whatever you have on hand. But whatever scissors you use, you want to keep your dominant hand, so your cutting hand, straight. See how I'm not moving my right hand? That's my dominant hand. But instead, I am using my left hand, and I am moving my paper with my left hand and moving my paper and not my scissors. My scissors are staying in the same position this whole time, and my paper is what's moving. That's going to give me smoother edges. And then to take these edges and really smooth them out, I like to flip over my image and press them down with my bone folder. So now I have my background done, I have my images done, and I'm ready to start assembling my card. But I realized that that white space in the background is just a little bit too white. So I took a stacked circle die set, and I cut out 3 circles that are the same size as my stenciled background. I'm going to place those over the top. I used a bit of pixie spray, but since I have some glitz glitter gel in that background and that's pretty textured, it's not going to fully adhere, but that's totally okay. It is just for me to cover up those ink blended circles and add some spatters of black watercolor. Now I used cardstock for my masks because I didn't want the watercolor to seep through. But that means that those cardstock masks are raised up a little bit. So I did end up going in with my paintbrush and adding some little dots and just kind of filling in any areas that I missed. Now I'm just going to add my images on top, so I have some foam squares here, and since I'm adding them onto a textured background with that glitz glitter gel, I like to add a tiny little dot of liquid adhesive onto my foam squares. That's just going to give me all the assurance in the world that these little guys are not going to move as this card goes through the mail. So I'm going to pop these kitties into the centers of each of these comic book circles. And then I also stamped the Your Meow Favorite sentiment. I'm going to put that kind of tucked behind those middle kitties and hanging off the left edge of the card. I'll use my T-square ruler to make sure that that's straight. Then I'm going to flip over that cardstock panel and just trim off the edge of that sentiment. Now here's where I thought my card was finished. But then I remembered when I went to put this on a white card base that I had cut down this background. And as much as I do like white on white, I thought, why not add another little pop of black, since I have that black glitz glitter gel, and add a black border. So I cut a piece of cardstock and added that onto a white card base, and this card is complete. Thank you again to all of you who are hopping along today to help celebrate and encourage Beth. And Beth, I hope you're watching this, and I hope you know how much I love you and that you will always have my support and encouragement. Don't forget that this video is part of a video hop to celebrate and encourage Beth, so you're going to want to leave a comment on my video and then hop along through the rest of the hop for your chance to win some crafty prizes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you have a fabulous day. Bye!